Right now, Crimea is the first to receive this new world order, if you wish, the new way of life under heavy rationing. That's kind of the logic. Greetings, this is Eugene the Philosopher, the greatest living philosopher after the unfortunate passing of Quentin Robert D. Nameland, who has been the greatest living philosopher before me. So this video is just really a brief update on my recent videos about like politics and economics and power, specifically what is actually going on, what is a multipolar world, and partly drones are the new artillery, okay? All linked in the description. So, in the video about what is actually going on, okay, and by the way, just for the record, I'm recording this video that you're watching right now on June 25th, okay, 2026. So, in the video, what is actually going on, we talked about how it seems like, according to my hypothesis at least, we are currently moving into the realm of a third horseman, you know, of the apocalypse, aka hunger and rationing, okay? So the first horseman was the plague, you know, the Chinese flu. The second horseman was war, you know, the Russia-Ukraine. And the third horseman would be hunger/rationing, the guy on the black horse with the scales, right? So, and how would they achieve the hunger and rationing? Is through, again, blocking the strait, you know, the famous Strait of Hormuz, and just generally, you know, uplifting the price of all the commodities, things like aluminum, copper, etc., and food, obviously, okay? So this will force most of the governments in the world to increase their power even more, just like we've had during the flu, and introduce rationing, right? Both in terms of food and fuel and probably more things as well, more other things as well. Let's put it this way. Okay, so in this framework, I know like there are talks about like peace negotiations between America and Iran, etc. But I still bet that the strait will remain closed because, again, if it will open right now, like at the end of June, then it will be very hard to, you know, justify any sort of rationing system. And since, according to my hypothesis, this is the goal, I mean, installing such a rationing system worldwide is the goal, you can't have that, right? So the strait have to remain closed. Maybe even another strait will be closed, you know, for example, Bab el-Mandeb. I mean, there's already like talks about this kind of going on underway, but I haven't watched the news recently, so I don't really know what is happening there with the Houthis, etc. Or maybe even China, you know, will make its move on Taiwan, which would incidentally also immediately burst the AI bubble. I mean, all these straits around China, I mean, they're obviously vital. The Malacca Strait, etc., for China itself, for its own trade. So they can make a move, you know. They can take Taiwan, maybe they can take some other territories or aquatories, if there's such a word in English. Nevertheless, I mean, regardless, what I wanted to say is that, yeah, according to my hypothesis, the strait should remain closed. And we've seen also in the video that what is a multipolar world, like forget about the we've seen part, I said that Iran and China are basically European proxies, right? And recently what we've seen, remember we've seen part again, is America signing surrender, right? Okay, memorandum of understanding. They said, okay, we've got enough of this, we just bail out. And notice who is accepting this American memorandum of understanding, aka surrender. It was Macron, right? It wasn't any Iranian guy even. And it happened, so it was basically United Europe accepting, you know, the American surrender. And it also happened in Versailles, right? Exactly where the formal end of the First World War happened, which is kind of symbolic. It was also signed on June 28th of 1919, okay, more than 100 years ago. And this one was signed when? June 19th, so like a week ago or something. And also notable in Versailles, the treaties, plural, of Versailles were signed on September 3rd, 1783, which ended the American War of Independence, which was also kind of very symbolic. Actually, those were signed not in the palace itself, but in a different building nearby. Anyway, it's still pretty symbolic, I would say, again, that Macron is kind of accepting, representing Europe, accepting the American surrender. But I still maintain that the strait will remain closed again, because the Europeans are driving this agenda that we need the hunger and rationing. Maybe Europeans is the wrong word here. Well, they, let's just call it they. But Europeans are much closer to they than anyone else in the world, arguably. So yeah. And what's the point of this video specifically? Well, as I've said, it's kind of just a brief update, but I will name it probably Crimea is the new Wuhan. And what do I mean by this is, if you look at what is happening in Crimea right now, so it's under attack by Ukrainian drones. Again, I'm kind of slightly referencing my own video. Drones are the new artillery. Even the title rhymes, right? So the Ukrainian drones are currently heavily bombarding Russian railways, bridges, roads. So basically the supply lines that lead into the Crimea, which have been occupied by Russia since 2014, right? So it's a very, very painful subject for Ukrainians, but I don't think Ukrainians are actually governing this attack, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is that the peninsula is basically cut off from supplies from outside, okay? And what it has led to is that it basically has no fuel anymore. It's not even for sale in Crimea right now, okay? So you can't buy any fuel there. So what it means is basically, probably, I would assume, I'm not a specialist in economics or anything, but I would assume we're only like weeks away from some severe humanitarian crisis in Crimea. And again, introduction of this heavy rationing system, okay? So my hypothesis here would be that Europeans are basically testing what would happen in this case, right? Because pretty soon, in the span of half a year, maybe, I don't know, maybe a year or half a year, something like this, the rationing system would be scaled up to most of the world, right? So they are kind of testing what will happen. They're just looking, at Crimea right now. So Crimea is like the first to step into this, third horseman stage, at least according to my hypothesis. I keep repeating that, okay? In fact, it's like not just one hypothesis. Arguably, it's like a dozen different hypotheses in a single knot, But it's still fun to think about, right? I mean, the topic is not very, it's pretty sad if you think about this. But, as far as we can't really do anything about it, at least trying to predict what's gonna happen next, it's kind of fun, like betting on stuff, right? The poly market or whatever, right? So anyway, yeah, my hypothesis, so just as Wuhan was the first, to receive the Chinese flu, supposedly at the very least, right? Right now, Crimea is the first to receive this new world order, if you wish, the new way of life under heavy rationing. That's kind of the logic. Hopefully you can see the analogy, and hopefully you can see my message here, right? So yeah, so the idea is that the straits will remain closed at least until the end of the year, I would assume. Again, that's my hypothesis, in order to introduce this worldwide rationing. So the lights went out, the oil ran dry, we blamed it on the other guy, as REM sang. It's been a bad day, please don't take a picture, etc. So Crimea is the new Wuhan. It's a testing ground, a guinea pig, if you wish, for something that would spread all over the world very soon. Specifically, a heavy rationing of fuel, of food, of pretty much everything else. Because that represents the third horseman, which we supposedly are about to see within a year, I would say carefully, okay? Thank you for watching. The eons are closing.
If you wish to support me, please consider joining my Patreon. That is patreon.com/philosopher. See the link in the description. Or if you have a scientific theory of your own and you'd like my help in developing it, please join my alternative science coaching program, also available through Patreon.